Dash dash dash. Rain fell like shards of glass that night, slicing through the silence of a city that pretended not to care. Streetlights blinked through the fog, their yellow glow bending and breaking on the slick pavement. She stood beneath one, a small, trembling shadow wrapped in an oversized coat, her hands buried deep in the pockets as though she could hide her whole being inside them. The world had a way of making people small. She had simply learned to take up less space before it tried to crush her. He came from the other side of the street, unhurried despite the downpour. His steps were steady, his shoulders squared against the weather as though the storm itself respected him. She watched him draw closer and felt that familiar knot twist tighter in her stomach, the one that warned her that good things never lasted, that warmth was always temporary. When he stopped a few feet from her, rain dripping from his hair, he smiled. That smile had always been a dangerous thing, too kind, too genuine, the sort of smile that made broken people believe they could be whole again. "You'll regret being seen with me," she said, her voice small but steady. It was both a warning and a plea. She wanted him to turn around, to walk away, to protect himself from whatever curse seemed to follow her, but she also wanted him to ignore her, to stay, to prove that maybe this time would be different. He didn't answer right away. Instead, he studied her face, searching for the truth beneath her words. She looked away first, unable to bear the weight of his gaze. The puddles around them rippled with the rhythm of the rain, reflecting fragments of neon lights from the diner across the street. Somewhere inside that diner, laughter broke the night, sharp and careless, the kind of laughter that belonged to people who weren't afraid to be seen. She had once been like that. Once, before everything fell apart. The memories pressed against the edges of her mind, threatening to spill out. She remembered the night her name first made the news, not for something good, but for the kind of scandal that burns reputations and ruins lives. She remembered flashes of cameras, the cold stare of strangers, and the whispers that followed her through every street, every job interview, every failed attempt at starting over. She had learned to live quietly after that, to move through the world like smoke, unseen, untouchable, uninvited. But he had seen her. Not the girl from the headlines, not the ghost who kept her eyes on the floor, but her, the person who still flinched at kindness because she didn't know what to do with it. He had seen her on the day the city lost power, when everyone else ran for shelter and she stood in the middle of the street watching the blackout swallow the skyline. He had handed her a flashlight, smiled, and said something stupid about stars shining brighter when the lights go out. She had laughed, actually laughed, and that was how it began. Now, months later, standing in the rain, she was trying to end it before it could hurt him. "You don't understand," she said, her voice trembling slightly. "People remember. They always remember. If they see you with me, they'll talk. They'll dig. They'll twist things until you regret it. I'm not someone you should be seen with." He didn't move. The rain ran down his face, blurring the edges of his expression, but she could still see the softness in his eyes. "Maybe I don't care what they say," he replied quietly. "You will." Her tone was almost a whisper. "They always make you care. They take everything, your peace, your reputation, your chances. They don't stop until they've ruined it all." He stepped closer. She could smell the faint scent of coffee and rain on his coat. "You think too much about what other people can ruin," he said. "Maybe you should think about what you deserve instead." She laughed then, a brittle sound. "Deserve? I lost that a long time ago." Her words hung in the air like frost. He wanted to reach out and touch her, to tell her she was wrong, but something in her posture, the way her shoulders curved inward, the way her hands clenched, stopped him. She was building walls even as she spoke, walls made of guilt and fear and the belief that she was somehow unworthy of being loved. The rain softened, turning into a mist. A car passed by, splashing water onto the curb. She didn't flinch. He noticed how still she had become, like a person who had made peace with her own invisibility. "Do you ever get tired of hiding?" he asked finally. She looked up at him, startled by the question. "Hiding keeps me alive." "No," he said gently. "It keeps you lonely." The words hit her harder than she expected. She wanted to argue, to say that loneliness was better than being hated, that solitude was safer than disappointment, but she couldn't. Not when he was standing there, looking at her like she was someone worth fighting for. She took a shaky breath. "You don't know what it's like to have people cross the street to avoid you. To watch friends disappear because they don't want to be seen near you. To see your name trending for all the wrong reasons. You don't know what it's like to walk into a room and feel it freeze. You're right, he said softly. I don't, but I know what it's like to see someone worth saving convince herself she's not. She shook her head. You shouldn't try to save me. Maybe I'm not trying to save you, he said. Maybe I just don't want to lose you. The words nearly broke her. She turned away, blinking hard against the sting in her eyes. The city around them buzzed with life, taxis honking, sirens in the distance, the hum of rain against metal, yet somehow the space between them felt like the only thing that existed. When she finally spoke again, her voice was quieter. You think it's that simple, don't you? That you can just decide to stay and everything will be fine. But it doesn't work like that. People don't forget. They won't forget me. And someday, when they come for me again, they'll come for you too. Then let them, he said. She looked at him in disbelief. You don't mean that. I do, he said. If being seen with you is something I have to regret later, then fine. I'll regret it, but I'd regret walking away a lot more. Her breath caught in her throat. For a moment, she wanted to believe him, to step forward, to let herself feel something other than fear. But belief was a dangerous luxury. It made you soft. It made you trust people who left when things got hard. You're making a mistake, she murmured. Maybe, he said with a small smile. But it's mine to make. Silence stretched between them, filled only by the soft patter of rain. She studied his face, searching for any sign of hesitation, any flicker of doubt. There was none. He looked at her the way people looked at art they didn't fully understand but couldn't walk away from. It terrified her. You don't even know everything, she whispered. You don't know what really happened. Then tell me, he said. But she couldn't. The truth was a wound that never healed, raw, ugly, and complicated. It wasn't a story she could condense into a few sentences. It was a lifetime of wrong choices, of trust misplaced, of fighting to exist in a world that preferred her silent. She turned her face toward the rain, letting it hide her tears. It's easier if you don't, she said. He took another step closer until their reflections blurred together in the puddle between them. Easier doesn't mean better, he replied. For the first time in years, she didn't have an answer. They stood there, two shadows in the rain, both caught between past and possibility. The city around them moved on, indifferent. Somewhere, a bus roared by. Somewhere else, a couple laughed under an umbrella. Life went on, as it always did, but for her, this moment felt suspended outside of time. He reached out slowly, his hand hovering in the air between them. She hesitated, staring at it as if it were a promise she wasn't sure she was allowed to touch. Her pulse thundered in her ears. Don't, she whispered. Why not? Because if you touch me, I won't be able to let you go. He smiled faintly. Then maybe don't. Her heart stuttered. No one had ever spoken to her like that, not with pity, not with judgment, but with simple, quiet conviction. She realized, in that moment, that fear had been her prison for so long that she had forgotten what it felt like to hope. The rain eased into a drizzle. She looked at him, really looked at him, the raindrops clinging to his hair, the sincerity in his eyes, the warmth that refused to fade even in the cold. And something inside her, something she had buried deep, began to thaw. Maybe he would regret it someday. Maybe the world would turn on them. Maybe this fragile piece would shatter like all the rest. But right now, standing in the dim glow of a streetlight, she wanted to believe that not everything she touched had to fall apart. She exhaled slowly, almost a sigh. You'll regret being seen with me, she said again, but this time, her voice held less warning and more sorrow. He smiled, gentle and unshaken. Then let me decide what's worth regretting. And though she didn't take his hand yet, she didn't walk away either. The night stretched on, the rain whispering like a secret between them. Somewhere in the distance, dawn was waiting, quiet, patient, and inevitable. For now, that was enough.